Okay, so I'm killing the video and I'm going with this. Again, we're all in home learning, and my children all start their Zoom calls for class at 11 a.m. So we're sharing bandwidth here. So this is me and my wife getting ready for a 5K. This is on the right-hand side, my children. You'll see the triplets on the left, Cooper, Cosette, and Carolina. And you'll see my son, Cameron, on the right. They're dressed up as the Beatles for Halloween last year. Those are unsanctioned photos. This is the official photo here. This is my family in our recent photo. I bring that photo up for just for the reason that I wanted to just share with all of you how important it is what you guys are doing right now. This crisis has been real. I know for my wife and I, trying to teach 4 children when we're not teachers and when we don't have the gifts and skills that many of you have or many of your colleagues have, it's been a really challenging time. We've loved it, but it's been challenging, and I just wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you to all of you for the work that you guys are doing. It is so important, and we are so proud to be supporting all of you guys in the great things that you're doing as educators, as trainers, as teachers, as administrators. That I will also say, as you can tell, I have a very vested interest in the scalability of education. At some point in about 14 years, I'm going to probably be paying 4 university tuition bills. So we definitely want online education to succeed. So I just wanted to share that to introduce myself for those of you that don't know me. Let me actually go to work stuff, which is probably what you care about more than my family. Why am I talking to you right now? I'm what's called the managing director of Open LMS. What that is a word that is British for CEO, and so therefore my job at Open LMS is to set the direction of this company, this new company that we've formed and exiting from Blackboard. We have 3 primary objectives. These are the objectives that I've set for the team. 1 is to build the best Moodle team in the world. 2 is to obsess about creating a great client experience, and then the 3rd is to grow our community. So I've got very little time because Laura and others are going to talk about the release. So they've told me I have just a few minutes. I want to talk about 6 things in 30 seconds each. And here we go. So the first is I want to share what's happening with the team. I am so excited about the team that we've brought over as we exited Blackboard and formed this new company. We brought over 65 people. They're amazing. You know most of them. We've since added 7 more people. We just opened up 3 more positions because we're growing the team. I'm just so delighted that we've got great people who care about you guys and who care about what you're doing. The second thing is we have this new focus on client experience. I want to be very honest and apologize. I know that over the last several years, we haven't always provided the best client experience to you. It is our goal to get better. We will not be perfect. We will make mistakes. But our focus is going to be on constantly giving you a better experience as you work with Open LMS. So give us feedback on that. If we do poorly, tell us that. If we do great, give people kudos on that and we'll get better. The third thing that I think is important for you to know is that we are growing. After several years of being kind of flat, we are adding new clients every day. We've added more than 50 clients so far this year. And it's very exciting to see that kind of growth. That allows us to invest and improve the product and improve our service. So we're delighted about the fact that we're growing, and we have plans. Our goal is to assign 150 new clients this year, and it's really a pleasure to see that kind of growth and to bring those folks into the community. The fourth thing is I want to talk about innovation. Laura is going to talk about the product roadmap, and so I'm not going to talk about product innovation. I will just say that innovation is part of our core value, and it's not just about product. We're going to be innovating on the support side. We're going to be innovating on how we manage accounts with you going forward. There's a lot of things that we can do across the company to innovate, and you won't see all of those results right away, but I think you're going to see some improvements very shortly. Fifth, the global community. One of the best parts of my job is that we have clients all around the world that range from the largest universities in the world, like University of New South Wales, University of Barcelona, Louisiana State University, down to some of you that use Open LMS to train 50 or 150 or 200 people. And it's so amazing to see this global community interacting. We're going to talk about our new community site and how people are connecting there. If you haven't joined that, please join that and join the discussion. It's been really fun to watch. I'm excited about continuing to grow and creating a bigger community where you can connect. Finally, and I don't want to talk about this too much, the news that you heard and were probably shocked with about 10 weeks ago, we were leaving Blackboard and we were joining, making this new company as part of what's called Learning Technologies Group, or LTG. I just wanted to share how that's going. First of all, we think we found an amazing home for Open LMS. LTG has been great. In the middle of a pandemic and an economic crisis, we've added more than 10% to our workforce. They've invested us, they've given us resources, they've shared, they've let us, have the reins to do things like launch a new community site, forgive overages during the course of the pandemic. They've given us so much flexibility to run this business the way that we want to. Some of the other companies in LTG are already building integrations. There's a company called Watershed Analytics that has built a proof of concept integration. For those of you that are interested in analytics, we'd love to have you check that out at some point and see if you're interested in us furthering that integration. But it's just been really fun to be a part of LTG. I will say, I know that this has been a change for many of you, and that's created work. Some of you have had to change where you send purchase orders, and we've had to update or certify contracts, or we've had to register with your state as a new company. To the extent that this has caused you extra work, I really do apologize. There's not really a way around that, but I do think that you're going to see long-term benefits from this move. And I'm just delighted that you're coming along on this journey with us. So thank you. With that, I'm going to pass it off to this about the changes and improvements we're making in support, and then Laura is going to talk, and Andy are going to talk and demo the product and show you what we're doing next. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Phil. Hi, everyone. This is Anita Hopper. I am the support manager for North America. I think I have interacted with most of you. If I haven't, please reach out. I'd love to connect. I just have a few quick updates for you around support in the community. We will be moving off of Behind the Blackboard. We're going to be moving to Zendesk, and so we will be able to get you onto the new system probably early to mid-July, probably closer to mid-July. We'll communicate this carefully and get everything out to you, and we will definitely keep an eye on Behind the Blackboard even after the transition to make sure that we haven't lost anything in translation. The community site, I don't know if you're aware, we do have a new community site. I encourage you to sign up. You can get up-to-date news on Open LMS. Our plugin matrix is now there. Educational information. You can collaborate with your fellow educators, and our release information will live there now as well. I really encourage you to join. Everybody's been pretty active. We have a new help site. So this happened really quickly, and I apologize if this caused some issues with some of you, because I know that you have some pages set up on your system that link to our help site. So we do have a new help site. All the documentation should be there. If you run into anything that's missing or something that you would like to see there, please reach out. I'm happy to work on that for you. We also have a new status page. So before we had status.blackboard.com that you would go to find out the status of the LMS. We have a new one. We're running in parallel right now, but you will be able to subscribe to that via an RSS feed if you would like. And that is the update on support in a nutshell. Thank you all. I'm going to pass on to Laura Martin. Laura?
Thanks, Anita. Let me share my video first. And we are going to start. So first, I'm going to talk about the roadmap and innovation, as Phil was talking about. When we within the product and Open LMS product team think about and define new features, they are always focused on 4 main areas. The first one being the best SaaS experience. The second, just focusing on the ecosystem now with LTG family and having better integrations. Be every time more scalable and efficient in terms of architecture and capacity in the platform. And finally, having a great differentiation and impact in teaching and learning. I would like to invite you to visit our public roadmap page, in which you will find the things that we are working on right now, the things that are coming, and the things that have been already been developed and shipped. So please visit it. I'm going to share the URL shortly too. So please go ahead and give us some feedback around those two. And now let's focus on what is coming in this release, this major release. First, the first thing to note are the dates. We have already launched the sandbox release on June 11th, and the production release is coming on the 9th of July. This is for our general customer base. We know there are some special cases with some specified dates, so this doesn't apply to them, but this is their general dates for everyone. The next thing, as you may know, all major releases comes with Moodle highlights or Moodle specific features and some Open LMS specific features. So the first thing, let's go through highlights for Open LMS. First, we have H5P integration. This is a more integrated feature made by Moodle, in which we will find a button within the A2 editor for you to create and embed content within tables, pages, and other activities within the platform. And Andy will go through in more detail about that in a few minutes. We also have new forums enhancements. Now teachers are able to grade students within the forums, to export discussions, and have some summary reports. Right now, these new features is working perfectly in Boost, but it's having a bit of a glitch in Snap. But don't worry, it's being worked on right now by the development team. So it will be done in a few days. We also have new course overview settings. Yes, those are the core forums. We have new course overview settings. The admins have now more options in terms of layout and also colors for this view. The calendar view also has new filters, so students and users can now filter the calendar dates, week, and month. We also have a nice timeout session alert. Users that have this enabled will be able just to prolong their session. And finally, we have a new course backup setting where you can define which files or files to not be added to that backup and have like a lot. Some special consideration that you might find helpful are that the course relative dates that came out from Moodle as an experimental feature in this release is currently being reviewed by the team and will be available. And finally, in theme styles, some of you have some customizations and might be worried on how those customizations might get affected with this release. But fortunately, no major CSS classes or IDs were changed in this major release, so you shouldn't see any major disruption with your customization. Most change view was forum, so I would recommend if you would like to review that view. And secondly, we have the course sections. There within the sections, an idea or a class what's changed. So if you have a very specific customization within your course section, I also would recommend you to review that. Then let's focus on what's coming from Open LMS to this release in 3.8. So first we have some UX, UI, and accessibility improvements in Snap. We also have new collaborate settings, new PLD settings, some Conduit improvements, and some experimental new features with open reports and a new tool called the Centralized Content Management tool. So let's dive deeper into some of those. One of our new UX features is within the Snap feature spots. As you may know, Snap has these feature spots in the home page, and before that you could only set up some information there, short, with a title and description. Now you can expand that information by creating or adding a link to the title, in which you can link that title to an external or internal URL and just have more information for your customers or your users. We also have our new accessibility VPAT document for 2020. It's both for Boost and Snap. We will share it shortly in the community, but you can always ask for it if you want to know and review how accessible we are right now. And we will continue to make fixes and improvements in terms of accessibility based on that document. At Collaborate, we also have new settings. Right now, by default, teachers will be able to, when creating a new activity of Collaborate, will be able to define if final users, if participants, sorry, are able or allowed to post messages or download the recordings or share audio for each and every session. We also know that there might be some institutions that do not wish to have this, just have some general definitions or settings for site-wide for this functionality. So within the plugin settings of Collaborate, there's the new functionality in which you can just check, enable, or disable this option for teachers. Now for PLD, we really like to PLD as flexible as possible. So now we have a new event, which is called the course end date, which will help you get more options on how to trigger actions. For example, sending emails X days prior to the course end date or after the course has ended. We also have a new setting for the specific date and time event, in which you can define if those rules get updated relatively to a new course start date if the course has been backed up and restored. So it's also more flexible, and it's searching for a way to maintain those course backups and restored, functioning with rules, PLD rules. This is already available. All these things that I've been talking about are already available on your sandbox. So please review them and try them and give us feedback on how they are working. We also have new Conduit execution and Conduit Queue Manager functionalities. In terms of performance, we have made some new options and new features in terms of how files are being processed right now by Conduit. Before this new functionality or this new technology, Conduit could only process one file every 20 minutes. Right now, it's set up to 20 files every 5 minutes. So it's way quicker, and it works in like a parallel way. And around that functionality, a new interface was created within Conduit, in which you can review which files have been uploaded to the SFTP folder, Conduit folder, and see the whole list in terms of categories and types. And you will be able to just by clicking on the arrows, just move up or down in priority the files that you would like to process first or process next. So please also check that out in your sandbox. It's within the Conduit plugin, the Conduit functionality. And the last two things that are experimental that we are also very excited about. First is the new Open Reports redesign. Our Open Reports have been migrated or are being migrated and to a new technology and a new way to render all the graphics. This is an experimental design, and by now we are having the dashboard and four reports, mainly with the graphics. And the link for it, you will find it right after the Open Reports regular link within the admin menu on the course, and you will find it available tomorrow. So also please just try them out and give us feedback on this new technology. And finally, we have a last and really cool new feature, new tool that came in its origin by a necessity from our customers, in which way they were really asking for having a centralized content repository where they could create like a parent activity and just replicate that parent within several courses and be able to edit that parent and see the changes reflected on all the child activities or replicas of that parent. So right now this is also experimental. We are starting as an MVP with the label resource, and we will be adding more resource and activity with time. But please also check it out and give us feedback. This is not yet available on Sandbox, but it will be soon in the next few days. We'll send communications and just share that information as soon as it's available, so you can just try it and yes, see how it's working, and just let us know what you would expect of this functionality. Okay, so now I'm gonna pass it to Andy just to further explain what is coming in this release. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. That was great. All kinds of exciting, cool things. And yeah, Shannon, I'm super excited about the release candidate for the repository system. I think it'll be a great addition to the tool set. And I have some notes about the Open Reports tool as well, but both of those features are going to be considered as sort of evolving throughout the rest of the year and going on from there even. And part of the intent is that we want to release these things now so that people can begin to experiment and test and identify enhancements or improvements to the workflows or the design, as well as just making sure everything works right. So please feel free to jump in there. Think about who you want to invite to test things out in the sandbox environment, for example, all of that kind of stuff. So I'm going to talk now for a while, hopefully not too long, but I'm going to dive into some of these features a little bit deeper. Yeah, and the flash warning error is that all the browsers are ending support for Flash. And in fact, your browser at this point should by default refuse Flash and force you to force it to use Flash. And that's part of the redesign impetus for the Open Reports, is that the Open Reports tool relies on Flash to generate the reports. And so that piece needs to be taken out. So we're building a whole new engine. And part of that story is that then we'll take the opportunity to build new reports and take a new approach on top of it all. And yeah, December 2020, we will have a party without strobe lights because that will be the end of Flash. It'll be the anti-Flash flash mob. From an overview perspective, there are some things that are coming from Moodle Core in the Moodle 3.8 update, and there are some things from the Open LMS team. I'm going to dive into these details and kind of give us some deeper thoughts, insights, details about how to execute some of these things. Feel free to jump in with more questions too. Mike, I'm always happy to be distracted by you, my friend. One of the details in the footnotes around the release for the Moodle 3.8 core features is an option to duplicate user tours. If you've not used user tours, this might be a reason to check them out. And if you are using them and you've had to do cool things like export a user tour and then re-import the user tour to copy the user tour, you'll be very excited that you can now just push a button to duplicate an existing tour into a copy of itself and make changes that way. If you're brand new to user tours is a tool that allows you to create step-throughs or walk-through communications for your users, right? They show up on the page. It's the first time they've opened the edit quiz interface, and a pop-up will come up and say, hey, would you like me to walk you through the steps of building a quiz? And they can click through the steps and it'll point to different things on the page and explain things in text. There are libraries of tours that you can borrow, both up in the Moodle.net space, which is linked from the user tours interface in the admin panel, or you can ask out in the community and see if people have tours that they're willing to share. Sometimes I might even share the ones I've built. Sharing is for suckers, but actually we should all share. So I work towards that goal in my open source world. One of the other small but high impact feature changes in the administrative perspective is the session timeouts now have a warning message that pops up. Session timeouts where folks sit idly on the page and eventually the server says, I don't think you're there anymore. It's an important security feature, right? It's critical to making sure that somebody doesn't wander off logged in and stay logged in for days on some machine that somebody else can then take action against. However, it's always had a bit of a problem that it just sort of arbitrarily happens to you. In particular, if you're actually looking at something and then you click on the page, when you click on the page finally, the browser goes, oh, by the way, yeah, I logged you out like an hour ago. And so this actually sends an interrogator up and says, hey, are you actually still doing things? If you don't interact with it, obviously it'll log you out. I haven't tested it on mobile devices to see how well it works there. That's an awesome question, Barry. I think I'll log in on my phone and see. I find that phones tend to be better about session staleness because you have to interact with your phone more frequently to keep it from going to sleep and staling out on you. So it'll be interesting to see how that works. Mike, for students on mobile devices, there's also some more stuff coming from the mobile app that I'll get to as well. I'm gonna plunge forward though, diving in deeper. The backups now includes a new feature that allows you to exclude course files from the backup. On the face of it, it's about saving space, right? When you take a course and you make a backup of it and it backs up the files inside the course, those are usually pretty low compression objects that take up lots of space and kind of pile up and make a bunch of junk. It's kind of a great idea, and if you're making a lot of backups, it's worth considering using that setting. However, yeah, Mike, that's exactly it. I'm cautious about that because if the point of the backup is to have an archive or a copy of the course that I need to use for, say, accreditation purposes 3 or 4 or 5 or 7 years down the line, or for grade challenges, those files that the student submitted are not in the backup if I don't include the files in the course in the backup, and now they're not there anymore. It's fine for short-term use where those files will still be on the server when you restore the course, and so they'll get connected back to the course through the restore process. But for long-term purposes, for storage and data retention purposes, for accreditation purposes, this setting is not your friend, and I would not use it. To just be clear about that. It means that those files eventually will be gone, and then you won't be able to recover them from the backup. So it's not a great idea. Yeah. Don't do it. There is a new feature. People are excited about this with the H5P settings. There's a new H5P button. I'm going to call this a release candidate as well. It's a cool idea. It's been added to the HTML editor. It will just show up automatically as the little H5P icon button on the HTML editor. It's cool. When you click on it, you get a screen like this, and it says, hey, let's add some H5P to this thing. It's really intended for things like labels and pages and books. It's not going to be in the Tiny MCE editor, just the Atto editor. If you're still using Tiny MCE, stop. There's like a million reasons not to. So we can work on getting you out of there if we have to. I will say from my experimentation and use of that, this tool, it's confusing to me because I've been using H5P all along, but I do see ways in which this thing is easier for some folks to interact with. It provides a less code facing, right? I don't have to copy an iframe tag and then embed it into the HTML in the HTML view in order to get my H5P to show up. What I have established from testing it is that it does not break what I've already done. And if I'm already using H5P, all of the administrative settings don't really get in my way. But it does, and that's exactly it, Joe, is that this is an embed. And so it's not a graded activity, it's an interactive element. And so the graded versions of these content objects that are intended to work with things like the quiz and lesson are coming next. They're in the work stream for Moodle Core. And this is really just a first iteration that kind of streamlines things a bit for being able to embed content. You can download and upload files using the reuse button in a H5P object. You could create courses that have libraries of H5P files or other H5P interactive elements that people can borrow. And you can use this file version or the URL link to the object within the site really quite easily, right? So you can just copy and paste the URL from the H5P element somewhere else in the site and just plop it in there and let it work. It's pretty cool. But again, this doesn't create graded elements and it's not designed to replace quiz questions. If you look at a quiz or you look in the lesson module, in the Atto editor, there's still the H5P button and you can add H5P to those elements, but it's not a graded activity element. So you can add it to create context in a question or create, let's say, audio elements for answers in a multiple choice quiz or elements for feedback to users. That would be a really cool thing to be able to do, is build like a mini slideshow with a question as feedback to a question that someone got wrong. That's the kind of thing that I would do to students just to make them feel like I hate them, because I kind of do. But I joke. But it isn't going to create a grade item directly. That's going to be coming in the future. And so from an administrative perspective, there are two new sets of settings. There's a filter setting set, and there's an H5P setting in the admin settings. The H5P one is where you would manage and load the content types that are available for H5P. So if you're already using H5P, you've already loaded the content types on the site, this doesn't do anything for you, to be completely honest. If you're not using H5P yet, you can either start using it the regular way or begin using it this way, and then you will upload H5P content package types into the site through this interface, and it gives you the ability to control which content types you want to have available to be used and which ones you don't through this experience. It's a bit confusing to me, to be honest, and I don't know that I would lean on it too hard at this point. But again, I've already been doing all of these things the other way. So, you know, if you're starting from new, maybe it's easier. The upside is you don't have to mess with any of these settings if you're already using H5P. It already behaves correctly. The filter has a URL placeholder where you put in a URL to tell the filter what external sites you're willing to accept H5P URLs from that the filter should then embed into the page. So it gives you control over external sources of content in the system. It gives you an example inside of there of one of the H5P resource library hubs URLs, and you can use that in particular is the most common place that I would think you'd bring those in from. Yeah, exactly, Miles. With 3.9, H5P took another big step forward, and it gets even better inside of these things. For now, if you're already using H5P and you're happy with the way you're using it right now, I don't really think this adds an awful lot of value to you, to be honest. If you haven't started with H5P yet, this is a great opportunity to begin. So it's kind of fun. There are some enhancements to the question bank editor page. They're not super huge, but they're interesting to me, at least. So they give me some new things to play with. The big thing, I think, is that it adds the ID number as a search filter or a sort order filter inside the interface. So if you're using question IDs, question ID numbers, that actually hops in here, particularly when you're using huge banks of questions that have all sorts of strange numbering. Like you can see on the screen here, where then Moodle alphabetizes the number. So the number 1 is followed by the number 10, which is then followed by 11, rather than making them numerically sorted. My ID tags can jump in and give me a different way to create sorting within that interface. The other big add in that change is that it also gives me the option to export individual questions directly from the question bank view. So for each question, I can use the edit tool to export just that single question in order to grab it as a Moodle XML file and import it into some other class question bank. It's a really cool feature. I'm kind of excited about that. I will admit that I have been lazy enough on more occasions than I care to admit to find myself exporting an entire course and then importing it over to another course just to get a question or two transferred over. So it's super lazy. Yeah, exactly, Mike. Thanks. The helpful tip is, if this numbering drives you crazy, if you put zeros in front of things, then it goes 0 is the first letter, and it numbers everything with a 0 in the front as 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3. And exactly, 0, 0 will work as well, because 0, 0 comes before 0, 1, 1, etc. But it's a bit of a hectic thing. It's one of my pet peeves, to be honest, but it's okay. I can't alphabetize either, so it's all right. Other things that are new, forums. I know everybody wants to talk about those big time, and I want to spend some time talking about them as well. Forums, Moodle Core has been making iterative enhancements to the core forums over the last few years. This release includes a bunch of enhancements that really close the gap to the open forums or the advanced forums or the HSU forums, depending on which name you remember. That enhancement set is really mostly focused on the summary reports behavior that they've added to the platform and the advanced grading methods tie-in. So now core forums have the ability to do direct grading or rubric-based or checklist or marking guide-based grading of the effort of the student in the forum rather than rating individual forum posts, to be very much like what you have in the open forums experience. It's a huge addition. It's a big step forward to closing the gap between the two. The other piece is the summary reports. I've got a little screenshot of a summary report here. It's a bit of a hybrid between the export function in the Open LMS or the Open Reports or Open Forums views. So that export function and the view report that you get, where you can see what each summary of each student's efforts are. There are things I like about each one's approach in their reporting at this point. I think they both have some cool features and behaviors in them. They're not exactly the same, but I don't think they're ever going to be exactly the same, but they're pretty close. The big differences at this point is that the core forums don't have all of the accessibility enhancements in place still. They're better, but they're not there yet. And the grading workflow for doing the advanced grading is not quite as smooth as the Open Grader tool gives you. So it's close, but not quite there. It's really close though. If you're already using the open forums and you're happy with them, you can stick with them. If you're not sure where you're going to be, or you've been using the core forums and you haven't switched over to the open forums yet, you can feel a little more confident that those forums are doing a much better job and they're being comparable. Someday, soon perhaps, we will come up with a path potentially for you to migrate from the open forums back to the core forums when we think that they're actually done getting there. Yeah, and maybe it would be the forums formerly known as the HSU forums at that point. I'm not sure. So we'll see what they turn into. But for now, I guess if I'm going to lay it out for you, if accessibility is a big requirement and a big interest for you, I'd stick with the open forums. The grading workflows are a little bit better in the open forum still, but I would expect that they're going to get improved as time goes on in the core forums. If you have a high use of the mobile app experience, the core forums work in the mobile app natively. The open forums fail over to the web browser on the device. They're not native to the mobile app, so kind of use your judgment on what fits your case the best there. But it's really great progress, and they're pretty darn cool. They've got some great enhancements going on in there. Personalized Learning Designer got a bunch of enhancements as well. We've already talked about them. I'm not going to labor them too much. The course end date is a new trigger that has been added to this set. If the course has an end date, then course end date shows up as an option for a trigger event. You can set that up as just as that date, or before or after that date by whatever number of days. It's a really great way to be able to send out reminders for people to turn in surveys or finish their work or grab assets that they should grab before the course closes. And it's a really easy way to make that then something that moves forward for you. Speaking of moving forward, the PLD also now has a restore dates function, so that when you restore rules across courses and they're tied to actual dates, those can, very much like the reset tool for a course, you can move those dates forward relative to the change in the start dates of the course with just a little checkbox when you review the rule in the new course. It's a pretty cool feature. I like that add. It saves a lot of time, yeah, which Pablo needs to do, because that awesome hairdo and beard action of Pablo's takes a lot of effort. So he needs all the time he can take. The last little bits I wanted to mention, there is, because we've already talked about this one, so I'm not going to do too much on this at this point unless you got specific questions, but those experimental reports to replace the open reports with a non-Flash based and non-Java based tool are underway. They're coming out to the sandboxes. There will be some stepwise enhancements and additions to them before they go to the production and releases as well. It's considered experimental at this point. We want to encourage you to test them, take a look at them, invite faculty who you value their input on these things to come and take a look at them starting tomorrow, and get feedback on them. It's just a handful of reports at this point. It's just the beginnings of the process. We want to evaluate what reports are important and useful, which reports could use enhancements or changes, and as far as anything goes in the system, give us some feedback. The community is a great place to go. We love hearing from you over there. I put the link in here. It's been in the chat a couple of times as well. Come join the community and give us your feedback on all that stuff. The last note that I wanted to really throw in here was about the mobile app. Moodle Core has made some changes to the way the mobile app is behaving. Going forward, there's a fee to get the full functionality out of the mobile app. You're welcome to engage with Core and pay that fee, I suppose. But if you use our Open LMS app, which is available in the marketplace as well, you don't have to pay any fees to use that. So it's a great option. I think it looks a little bit better. It's got more of our style applied to it, and it's there for you to use and for your users to use as well. There are ways to update the links to point to that app in the marketplace for when you get prompts about downloading the app on the site. We can set you up with ways to update those links and make it so that everything works really cleanly for your users. There are also some great enhancements in there, including in the new release of the mobile app. There's H5P integrations with the option to view H5P content offline, so to download the content to your device and work on it offline. There's a dark mode in there, which is really cool. I like to use the dark mode as well. It helps my old man eyes. And, and some other additions. One of the cool features in there is that the mobile app now has an autosave text editor behavior, much like the website does. So when students are in there interacting and entering content into the text editor, it'll save for them automatically rather than run the risk of disconnecting and losing things. It's pretty cool. I think it's a great way to go. Robin, I like that idea. Let's talk about that on the community site about exporting completed learning plans. Moodle Core has talked about doing some stuff that direction, but nothing's really happened yet. So maybe we could kind of invent our own solution for that instead. Because I think that's a really necessary piece to close the loop on learning plans, including the ability to pull evidence objects out as well. It'd be pretty dope. So. Yay! The audio editor recordings on Mac or iOS devices has a fix in place. It should be coming out soon. I saw some posts about that inside of Moodle Tracker recently, so hooray for that. Yeah, it's intermittent as to whether or not it works for you, and I think it has a lot to do about some of the dependencies in the device. But it's been a pretty consistent problem for a while. So, yeah, yeah, it would be a really good thing. So, yeah, you know what, Carrie? It's still called Blackboard Open LMS app in the market space. That should be updating super soon. And yeah, I think that would be really cool to use. I love the app in kind of all of its incarnations, but it's a lot easier for students and users, I think, in general. Right? I mean, we all are glued to our devices all the time, so the app is really good. Excellent. Yeah, and it should be, as far as the update for the app, that should be a couple of weeks to have that app name changed. So don't worry it shouldn't take long. And I'll tell you what, I'll make sure that at the very least I have a post up on the community site about how to update the download the apps link to point to the app that you want it to go use. I think it'll be really useful for you going forward. Excellent. Yeah, prior to the semester would be, I would even say not just appreciated, but kind of a requirement. So yeah, that will definitely beat the semester deadlines, and things will be great. Yeah, and Phil, I think that's everybody's question these days: is when does the semester actually start? probably on time and probably at least partially online. So. Maggie, you know what? That's a great question. What do you tell your students that they're using? Moodle, Blackboard, Open LMS, LTG. Blackboard, not really anymore. We've been sold to LTG, and we're finalizing that transition in the next month. So all of our stuff will no longer have any references to Blackboard, and we won't be linking out to Blackboard resources anymore. So that's a pretty clean one. Moodle is a great thing to say, and it's true and makes sense. Open LMS is super easy. LTG is certainly not wrong, but it doesn't necessarily add a lot of value to put it in there. I think Open LMS is what we love. So of course we're going to say that. Yeah. Yeah, Casey, that's a lot of work. I still struggle with it to this day. I've been working not on just Moodle for a really long time, but we are happy. If you're happy calling us what you need to call us, we're happy too. I'll stick with that answer. Excellent. Well, thank you very much, everyone. I know we've hit the top of our hour. Really appreciate you coming in. There's a lot of great questions, and I hope we've answered them all for you. If we haven't, hit us up again. You know how to get a hold of us. You can always email Phil. But in reality, you could email Phil, but probably a better place is to head to the community site or the support site and hit us up for some answers. And we're happy to give you what we know. Thank you very much.